Thank you for joining us for our second session of our Top 10 series on the top 10 scams affecting Delawareans. My name is Gina Schoenberg. I am the Deputy Director of Consumer Protection at the Delaware Department of Justice, and we are thrilled to have you tune in today to learn how to arm yourself and be a savvy consumer. So during this session, we will be discussing online shopping scams. This is the second most prevalent scam that we receive reports about here at the Department of Justice. I'm thrilled to welcome John Bell from the Better Business Bureau of Delaware. John is the Director of Business Relations, and he has partnered with us numerous times. We're very appreciative to that. He's been with the Better Business Bureau for 10 years. Also with us today is Special Investigator LaVincent Harris. LaVincent joined the Consumer Protection Unit in 2017. Before that, he retired from a successful career with the Newcastle County Police, where he retired as a master corporal and then had a stint with the Capitol Police before we were lucky enough to have him come on over to the Consumer Protection Unit. So I'm going to turn it over to John, who's going to kick us off.
Well, thank you, Gina, so much. And first thing to talk about is what are we really talking about when we say online purchase scams? And in Delaware, the data the BBB collects says that 73% of the time, the reports that we get are talking about people that paid for a product or a service, but they've never received it. So these are people that have made a purchase on a website and it just never shows up. Other times, though, it could be something different. We see a number of reports about people that get either a different item or like an inferior product, something that's not at all what they thought they were ordering, and they're not able to get a refund. And then there's the other category, right, which is everything from overcharges to being signed up for a subscription that you didn't think you were signing up for, recurring charges, or extra fees beyond a subscription, or even having your credit card information stolen. All those fall under the sort of umbrella of online purchase scams. And the big sort of shocker for me when we look at this data is where it's happening. Where are people being linked primarily to these fraudulent websites where they are victims? 30% of our reports, they started on Facebook. They start on Facebook. Maybe it's in their news feed, maybe it's an ad, maybe it's on Facebook Marketplace, but they're clicking a link from Facebook and they're going to a site where they end up thinking they're making a purchase, thinking they're making a smart shopping decision, and they're ripped off. Second most highest, though, no surprise to anybody, Google, right? Google, 28% of the reports we get, just under that 30% from Facebook. But these are people that do a direct search on Google. We had this happen for a woman that wanted to buy a puppy. She typed in Braidland Aussie. The very first listing that popped up on Google took her to a website that ended up being a scam site. Scammers have every ability that a real company does to properly index their site to be found in search. Now, if the woman had looked at the second and third listings down, she would have seen Braidland Aussie scams and variations of it. But people that look for those top results are being served up sometimes sites that are not real. Now, we looked at a lot of information on why people fall for it. When we have these victim reports come in, what are the reasons that they're citing that made them go ahead and pull the trigger for the purchase? Number one, sales price. Sales price, it's a deal. Spoiler alert, Louis Vuitton not having a 70% off sale. But if it looks like it does, you could be forgiven for wanting to get it at that price. Number two, though, would be, especially last year, item scarcity. When you can't find something anywhere else, but this website's got plenty of them, people might buy it. And then the normal things. The website looked professional, or they had great pictures, or things like that. Those are all the motivating factors that go into it. And when you look at the people that are actually making these purchases and are being defrauded, it's shocking to a lot of people that we talk to at BBB, but the victims are everybody. But there's certainly people that are younger. It skews far younger. In fact, people aged 35 to 44 are at the highest susceptibility. So they're most exposed because they spend most time online. They have the highest vulnerability, which means they lose money, and they are frequently people that are not able to realize when they've been targeted, either because they just aren't paying attention or because it's just a very well done scam. So, and bear in mind too, that you don't just lose money with an online purchase scam, you lose your time. right? If you ordered an item 2 weeks ago and it hasn't arrived, the first thing you do is you send an email to the company, or you call and you sit on their phone for customer service for an hour and a half. And in every case, you're wasting time in addition to the money, which you're most often never going to get back. So we looked at where are the categories that people lose money most, because this is, again, a topic we could talk about for far longer than the time we have today, but these are the categories that if you're online, you should be aware that these items are most often set upon by scammers and impersonated. So pets and pet supplies. People lose money here a lot, and they lose a lot of money, especially some of those pets. Pedigree animals can be very expensive. So that is number one. We see motor vehicles and motor vehicle parts. So if you're going to buy a used car online, buyer beware. Medical, nutrition needs, supplements, those are sort of things people are a little bit more familiar with, but also clothing and apparel. Again, I mentioned the Louis Vuitton sale. That's something that happens regularly. People see a discount or apparent discount on some very designer brands, but of course it's not real. Skincare, technology, of course, technology is always in there. Footwear, shoes, careful about that as well. So you've got to be aware that these things are happening, and you've got to be aware that if you're linking to these things from Facebook or doing a direct Google search, that puts you at risk. Honorable mention would be Instagram too. Instagram, 10% of the reports we see, and especially for younger consumers, originate on Instagram. So be careful, especially if you're actively shopping for something. These scammers know how to make an enticing offer that looks really good and can really on in. Back to you, Gina.
Thanks for sharing that, John. And I will say, even as Deputy Director of Consumer Protection, I am the proud owner of a tie-dye sweatsuit that I purchased during the pandemic from an ad on Facebook. And although I received it maybe 6 months later, and it was not at all as I expected. So this can happen to everybody. We all need to arm ourselves and be on the lookout for some of these red flags. LaVincent, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. One of the things that is critical for me as an investigator is people will come up to us and they'll tell us, hey, look, I had this problem. I think I was scammed. What's very, very important is for that incident to be documented in a report. Now, what we have initially, there are things available, resources available to the public. One of the main resources, actually from the FBI, is our IC3 website, or their website, and it's the Internet Crime Complaint Center. It's made available. It's very user-friendly, which they use to track all the information that goes into reporting an incident. One of those things is there a victim loss? If there may not be any loss, or people may see something that's suspicious. That's very important that that's looked at and reported. We try to, and initially dealing with victims, I always want to let you know that if there's an opportunity that we can get your money back, or try to help you get a refund, or that we'll do what we can, but it doesn't always happen. And you need to have that expectation, and there's certain things that go into that. But why report? And the reason why you report is because reporting informs us of the extent these crimes are occurring, who their targets are, the methods that the suspects are using, and it helps us to use our resources to educate consumers through various means of community outreach for their protection. That's what we're doing here. And we actually go out into the public. We go, pre-pandemic, we would actually go to churches, and we go to community centers, and we go to various locations and educate the public so that they will be aware of these scams that are out there online, and sometimes right in stores. So we're always on the watch for that. John made a good point when he mentioned motor vehicles. One of the things that has been increasing since I've been here at the Attorney General's office is online purchases of motor vehicles. And people are buying motor vehicles, but they're not doing their research before they buy them, and they're becoming victim of vehicles, especially that are salvaged. So it's always good to have your vehicle, before you purchase it, to have it checked out with a reputable mechanic that's local to the area of that vehicle prior to your purchase. These are some of the things that we talk to consumers about, try to educate to eliminate any problems that you may have in the future after you purchase that vehicle. So as we go along with this discussion today, I'll bring up some more tips for you to help you out to help protect you, the consumer, from people trying to take advantage of you. Gina?
Thank you for that excellent segue, LaVincent. I just want to mention, IC3 really, and that's again the Internet Crimes Complaint Center. We're going to throw some helpful links into the comment section, and we'll make sure that we get the IC3 Complaint Center link there as well. I hear all the time, well, I didn't lose anything, but I found the suspicious website. What do I do? Report it to IC3. Even though you may not have contact made with you, the FBI and our federal partners are using that database to go and pull fraudulent websites down and to take action that you may not hear about, but that's very powerful. So we highly encourage you to use that. John, what are your best tips for consumers?
Yeah, that's a great one, and the tips that you've got to sort of pay attention to when you're looking at an online purchase of any type is be careful, right? This may come as a shock to you, but the internet is full of lies. There's a lot of people out there that can say whatever they want. They can have it stay there forever. They can basically trick you and put up fancy websites, and there's very little that you can do just by looking at it to be sure, unless you do additional research. So you've really got to vet any online shopping site where you're going to make a purchase. Certainly if it's your first time that you're going to be buying from them. So you can check Better Business Bureau. We have reports internationally about businesses. They can help you at least identify, are they a real business? Do they have a brick and mortar location somewhere? And what's some factual information that we've been able to discover about them? You can, listen, you could do worse than Googling the name of the business plus scam, right? I mean, let's not pretend the internet doesn't have a lot of information out there. You've got to do that research though. You cannot take reviews on a website as gospel. You've got to be a little bit more skeptical than that. You've also got to trust your gut. The old adage of if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. It's just as accurate today as it ever has been. If something seems off about pricing, or if they're trying to really get you with a sense of urgency, a flash sale, or you can't get off this website, you got to buy in 15 minutes, or they'll give your item to somebody else, that should be a red flag. You should not be pressured into making that kind of a purchase without doing your research. And be aware, the statistics we track show 63% of people that lost money were actively shopping when they lost the money. So they weren't, just browsing the internet one day. They were out there looking for something, and the internet served up an ad that sent them to a website, or they Googled something and it sent them to a website. They were actively shopping. So if you are looking for a purchase, be aware that you've got to have this in the top of your mind. I mean, don't get me wrong, people still lose money when they're just surfing. 15% of people that lost money was just an impulse buy. Something that looked like something they were going to pick up and do, but got to be aware of the ways you can do your research. And then for the last feedback, the last tip we give people, pass on this information. Share the tips you hear through the AG's office, through Better Business Bureau. Make sure that you're having these conversations with your friends, your family, your parents, your kids, because everyone is a target for these scammers. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you, John. LaVincent, what are your best tips for consumers?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. One of the things that's critical out there for people is do not send a wire transfer. Do not do that. When your money is transferred, when it goes out there, it's not going to come back, and it's very difficult. And there's a lot of they have a lot of firewalls in place, the suspects do, to make it difficult for us to trace, to get that money and find out the source of that money. It's like going down a rabbit hole, one after another. So it's very difficult. So it's critical that you do not do a wire transfer, and do not give out any PIN numbers, account numbers, or anything of that nature, because once it's gone, it's gone. It is good to use a credit card or PayPal. There's a record of the transaction. There's a record of communications that goes on. That is very helpful for us to look at. So make sure that if you're using any type of means of communication, that you keep accurate records of that. It's also important when you're doing online shopping, when you see that website and you're looking at that product that you like, and you're reading about it. Oh, this is a great product. It's wonderful. You'll love it. Your neighbors will love it. Make a screenshot of that. Make a photocopy and keep it in your records. How was that product portrayed? What did that seller tell you to convince you to get that? This way, if there's something that goes on or happens down the line, we have an idea of what was presented to you. If it was a bait and switch situation or something along those lines, that type of information is critical to us to help us help you. So please be sure to keep accurate records of that. Thank you.
Those are awesome tips, LaVincent. Thank you for that. We have some time to take questions. If you have any, please throw them down in the comments section. It doesn't look like we've gotten any yet. So luckily I came prepared with some for our guest speakers here. So John, you mentioned the Facebook Marketplace. I think our viewers might be interested to hear more about that. Do you see a lot of this happening in the Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Gina. It's something where Facebook is so popular, so well used that they're like a beacon for scammers. They are attracted to where the people are because it's a numbers game for them. And Facebook Marketplace is certainly a generator of a lot of complaints, a lot of fraud reports. And it's basically a Facebook version of a Craigslist, so a peer-to-peer sales platform. And that's challenging because at least if you're buying from a business, you have the ability to research the business. Are they licensed? Do they have a good track record? Do they have information? But a lot of times Facebook Marketplace is not businesses, they're people. And that's great in a lot of cases, but it makes it that much more difficult to research what you need to research to be able to be 100% sure you're buying from somewhere that's reputable. And LaVincent's point about how to pay is spot on. You've got to be paying attention to that. Credit cards, PayPal, these are much better options than, say, gift cards. Gift cards, wire transfers, it's just as good as cash in a lot of cases. So be aware of how you're paying for these things. And again, especially with what you're seeing, making sure that you can validate that seller is who they say they are as best as possible.
Thank you for that, John. I have another question for you. What should consumers expect when they file a complaint with the Better Business Bureau? And what's the best type of information for them to bring to these reports with the BBB?
Well, that's a great question. So BBB, as a nonprofit, we are a great opportunity for consumers that think they've had basically a bad marketplace transaction. They're not necessarily to a point where they think that it's fraud. A complaint could be for someone that thinks that maybe they didn't get what they thought, or they just are having a bad experience. So a complaint with BBB can help the business have an opportunity to do things right, as opposed to filing the Attorney General. I mean, you guys are law enforcement, that's the big guns. Somebody that wants to give a business a chance to do the right thing can file a complaint with BBB and give the business an opportunity to respond and resolve it before it escalates to a law enforcement type level. But we would look for the same things that any sort of complaint would need: name of the business you had an interaction with, date of purchase, information, as much as you can sort of paint a picture of what happened. And then we try to get the business's perspective on it as well. And then the great news is, just like with IC3, we're able to warn people about those substandard businesses. I mean, if a business won't even respond to BBB for a complaint, then what chance do other consumers have of ever getting an answer? So great question. Thanks for bringing that up, Gina.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers who are putting in questions. I will say, if we don't get to everything today, I want to encourage you to check out our Twitter recaps happening on Wednesday at 4 and Friday at 4. We will make sure that we address every single question that comes through and add some other extra tidbits. One of the questions, and you can follow us at DE_DOJ. That's our Twitter handle. One question we're getting: can we submit an inquiry for investigation to the Attorney General's office? You can file a complaint with us at Delaware.gov/consumer complaint, We'll throw that down in the comments section as well. LaVincent, I'm hoping you could tell us, what can consumers expect when they file a complaint with the Department of Justice?
Well, their complaint is going to be reviewed. It's going to be filed and reviewed from the facts that are provided by that complainant, that person who's concerned about their situation. And then it's going to go to a prosecutor, and it's going to be also issued to a special investigator. Now, when I get involved in it, I'm going to review all the information that was submitted by that person who's filing that complaint, and then I'm going to do my work. I'm going to roll my sleeves up, and I'm going to get in touch with that individual. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to do all the investigative work that I need to do, and then we're going to have a discussion about that being the team that is assigned to the case. We're going to discuss it. We're going to review the facts. We may need to conduct additional interviews. And at some point in time, there'll be a determination from the investigation what's the best course of action and what needs to happen then afterwards. Sometimes it's a lengthy process. So a lot of times I advise the individuals that it's going to take a while, and it goes at the pace that it goes at. It's not a quick process, but we are very diligent in trying to get everything done. And everybody that I deal with, they have my phone number at my office, and I call everybody up. I return your calls, and I do the best that I can, and we do the best that we can to help them out to come to a favorable outcome.
Thank you, LaVincent. I'll throw out there a tip of my own. The sooner you involve us, the better. We are one office with not an enormous staff. If there has not been financial loss, you can expect that we'll load your information and pass it on to our federal partners. Any information that you can provide to us regarding the website and any other identifying information is going to be helpful to hopefully taking that information down off the internet. If you are victimized and lose money, the sooner you alert us, the better. I'm going to take one more question before we have to end things. And I'm seeing, is there an alert system in Delaware to let consumers know that an online scam has been discovered? Yes. Please follow us here at the Attorney General's Facebook page, on our Twitter handle. Go to our website, look out for our news alerts. We routinely put out media to the public to let them know when we are seeing trends in online scams. And please join us for the rest of the week. As I mentioned, this is part 2. We're going to be here every day this week from 10 a.m. and also at 2 p.m. for about 15 to 20 minutes, and talking to you about the top 10 scams we're seeing in Delaware and what you can do to protect yourself. We've posted helpful links in this comment section. You can come back to the Attorney General's page at any time, rewatch the video, check out the links. They'll remain up for your use. Again, we hope you'll join us on Twitter at 4 p.m. on Wednesday and 4 p.m. on Friday. If you asked a question that we didn't get to, we assure you that we'll make sure you get a response there. Please tune in for our next segment on consumer credit. Deputy Attorney General Catherine Devani and CPU paralegal Tiffany Williams, both experts in this field, will be talking to you about that live here on Facebook, the Attorney General's webpage at 10 a.m. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy National Consumer Protection Week.